back, everybody. This is Weddings and Shit with Weddings by Sunnyside. We are hanging out in the studio today to talk about wedding themes, styles, and trends with the crew. So, to start it off, we're going to start talking about just styles and trends that we've been seeing and how we feel about them. So, Kristen's going to start off with geodes and crystals.
Yeah. So I've been seeing this trend a lot lately, not only in stationery and invitations, but also in cakes and like tablescapes, arrangements. I mean, people are putting this shit in their... Am I allowed to say shit?
Yeah, well, it's weddings and shit, so you should talk about...
In their floral arrangements. I mean, I've seen crystals in floral arrangements.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen them in centerpieces, like on tables, like surrounded.
Yeah.
They're trying to get your chakra like totally perfect before you eat dinner, you know?
I'm really into the geode cakes, though. I think they're super cool.
Yeah.
I think that, when they're done right, they
look gorgeous.
They're true works of art.
Yeah, they really are.
I mean,
I don't know how you can do that.
You don't want to cut into it. Like, I don't want to eat that. I would like to just look at it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm going to put it on my
Especially
dining room
where
table.
it like cuts in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you see like the crystals
Like
inside. Yeah, it's got
cooking
some depth
cake,
to it. Yeah, it's super cool.
Really
But I think it's cool to kind of carry that theme through and do it like in your invitations too, and then people look like their invitations. I've actually seen this one styled shoot that I saw did like a blue geode theme, and so they had blue geodes on their invitations, and then like all of the place cards were actually sliced blue geodes, and people had written on them in like white. It was super cool.
So it's like the evolution of glitter, right?
Totally.
Is what you're saying, right? I mean, it was like glitter before, but right, yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, I like it though. I think it's cool.
I think it's beautiful. I hope that it sticks around for a little while, because I think it's just like a really nice touch and
It's like earthy, but like, you know.
But like, you know, like you're, I don't know.
It's like fancy earthy.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think no matter what, it just brings a peaceful energy to it. You know, it really does. Whether you believe in the power of crystals or not, when you see them, you're just instinctively in a calmer state of mind. And at a wedding, and which can sometimes be a high stress situation, it's nice to have that essence of something like a crystal or a geode. So I totally agree.
For sure. So we are on board with geodes. We think they're rad.
It's a great trend.
Don't go overboard, but it's amazing. Incorporate it. The next trend that we wanted to talk about is the greens and or lack of greens in photos and videos. So Donnie and I are really going to hit on that. I think Kristen definitely has an opinion. I think I will start off just by saying that it's an interesting trend that's been going around for a while. I follow several photographers on Instagram. Their work is amazing. But yeah, the desaturated, what's a video if you're not making fun of yourself? The desaturated greens are interesting. I don't mind them, but I definitely I'm not a big fan of the gray greens. Like that's obviously a lawn. Why does it look like
Donnie's shirt?
Yeah.
Dirt?
So is it necessarily something that the people at the wedding are doing, or is it like something that photographers are choosing to do with greens?
No, it's post-production
It's
that
post-production.
people are
Okay, got
choosing. And I think it's because greens can be really vibrant and really distracting in photos. So I definitely tone mine down, but I like a happy medium. Like obviously I want it to be green because that tree was in fact green, not gray.
Yeah.
But I'm a photographer that goes for a little bit more of like a classic look. I want my images to be timeless, and I don't necessarily want to fall into a trend just because those come and go. And I think it's beautiful. And the hard part is that some photographers that I follow are so incredibly talented and amazing, and I still love their work even with the, the different tones and things that they're using for things like grass and green trees. But over time, I imagine what those are going to look like in 10 years from now. It's kind of like when you had like selective coloring and there was like a black and white image, but the bride's red rose bouquet was all red in an
Color
image.
splashing.
Yeah, and it's just like so horrific. Like you look at those now and you're just like, what were people thinking?
Yeah.
So to me,
very
I don't necessarily lump those in the same category, but I just feel like in 10 years from now, what's the next trend going to be? What are images going to, is it going to be the blues? Like, is it going to be sky? What's the next thing?
And with photo and video for your wedding, you're doing it so that you can look at them 10 years down the road. It's not an instant gratification type thing. So I think one of the most important things is that it's timeless and that you're not getting
So what should someone do then if Because like you guys were saying, this was all done in post-production. Yes. So knowing these tips that we're giving our fan base, and if they're now thinking, okay, I have to think about greens now, what advice would you give to a photographer after your photos are done going into post-production?
Well, I just think that it really comes down to clients choosing the photographer whose work they really resonate with. And it also falls on the photographer because you obviously, like, photographers evolve as do videographers. Your work is constantly changing and growing, and hopefully, and you're adapting and you're finding your groove. And I just think it's important for clients to pick the photographer whose work they truly love and admire, and they see like that's exactly what I want my stuff to look like. Which obviously also comes with experienced photographers, but as photographers evolve, I've also come across people who are like, hey, who actually notify their clients like, hey, I'm kind of taking my photography in a different direction. I'm like editing a little differently. And if they had a previous client who like booked them the year before, but their work's slightly changing, typically people will have a conversation with those clients like, hey, this is what's happening. Do you prefer my old work, or are you kind of digging the new stuff that I'm doing? Which I think is the respectful thing to do.
I've done it.
I would hate to deliver a wedding gallery and somebody be like, what the hell? This doesn't look really like what your work looked like last year. And it's like, yeah, you're right. So I think it's all about like being honest and upfront with your clients and being like, hey, this is where I'm at. Do you like this? Do I need to edit my old way? Like, I'm happy to just I would just want to make you happy. So.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point too, is to touch on like, when you're choosing a photographer and videographer, don't just look at things like, hey, was it a good video? Did it make me feel good? Did the photos look cool? Like, actually look at the color correction and the post-production that they're doing. Are they adding grain to their photos? How do the greens look? How do the colors pop? Like, all of those things should matter to you because you're investing in something that's going to last for the rest of your life.
So be more involved is what
be more involved. And like you said, if you as a professional, if your style is changing or in the process of changing, just be open with your clients and just be like, this is my new work that I'm coming out with now. You booked me when I was doing this looking type of work because when I started, I was light and airy 100%. I think we all were when we started back in 2010, 2012. Everything was light and airy. Now it's like very deep and dark, and we've got desaturated greens now. Everything's very moody. And I had a client once that booked me when I was light and airy, and I was very quickly transitioning to like a more dramatic look. And I was honest with them. And I asked them like, what do you prefer? Here's my newest work, and here is what you saw when you booked me. And they liked the light and airy stuff. So I post-production, we kept it light and airy. So yeah, I think it's just important to know that it's out there, it's a possibility.
And for a client, they would love you for that. Just taking that one step forward and explaining, here's where I was creatively, here's how I'm evolving creatively, and giving them that option. Do you want the old me, or do you want the new me that we're trying out here? And no answer is wrong or right in this, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting, when you're talking about artists in general, it's an interesting factor to take into place. I think when you are photographing somebody's memories that they're going to have for the rest of their life, like no pressure or anything, but as an artist, you are constantly striving to change and grow and and really like hone in on who you are as an artist. And I think just being an open book with your clients and where you're at is just like the best thing that you can do. So
I love it.
I think the whole green trend is cool, but people have taken it a little far.
I've seen some really dramatic representations of that. Anyways, our final trend that we wanted to talk about is adventure elopements, which is very near and dear to my heart as a photographer. So do you want to start?
Yeah, I think adventure elopements are great. I think if you're planning on getting married in the next few years, like consider an elopement and consider going somewhere either that you've never been before, or that you really, really love that's not in your home state or country or where you live currently. I think it's a great opportunity for people to bring their families together in a location that is unlike anything else at home. They can be a little bit more expensive, but there's plenty of ways to cut costs. You just don't go as big of a party. You only invite X amount of people. And
so here's an interesting thing to interrupt you. The other day, actually yesterday, I was talking to my mom, and I was mentioning one of the elopements that you did, the one that was at the Sabor farm.
Oh, Sabor Mexicano.
Yeah. And I mentioned it as an elopement, and she was like, that wasn't an elopement, there was families there. And I was like, well, actually now elopement for some reason doesn't just mean the couple goes and, you know, dips out and gets married on their own.
Runs out.
Yeah, it means like there's like 10 to 20 of their friends, closest friends and family. They're with them and it's like a destination type situation. So I thought that was interesting how the terms kind of changed.
The term is totally changed.
I don't even think of elopement as like two people going on their own anymore.
Like,
I mean,
to Vegas.
Yeah, I don't think of that anymore. So generationally, it's totally different.
It's totally different from our parents. Yeah, I mean, an elopement was like you were running off without anybody knowing and you were getting married. Now it's that. I mean, I think definitely people still do that, but it's like evolved into this thing where people are putting a lot more thought and care into what they want that to look like. You know, like I don't want to just run off and go get married at City Hall. I want it to be documented. I want to feel amazing. I want it to be an experience.
Right.
Which I think is really freaking cool. I just think it's so rad that people are taking the time to, like, they're saving money on one end of the spectrum, but they're also like creating a lifetime of memories for that occasion for them. Yeah. You know, it's just as special, if not, I think sometimes even more special because, you know, I come from a big ass family and it can be stressful trying to bring a bunch of people together and, you know, it's like, that's a lot. So I don't know. Adventure elopements are pretty amazing. And I think it can be totally worthwhile if you go about it the right way. Yeah. And hire the right photographer and get a videographer to really document like what's going on.
So just
play some music
really quickly. An additional thing that kind of goes hand in hand with the adventure elopements. One of the photographers that we're talking to potentially shoot our wedding mentioned, and I've actually heard this a lot now, that she likes to do a day after session where you put your wedding dress, you put all your clothes back on, you get your makeup done again, or you do your makeup or whatever. And then you like go on top of a mountain and get
you go to the city or something and
you do something so that during your wedding day you don't have to like go do your couple photos and leave your wedding, which I think is super cool. At first I was like, I want to put my wedding dress back on. Like once it's done, it's done. But now I'm like, that's a really cool idea. And it kind of goes hand in hand. Like if you're not able to do an adventure elopement, if you do have to have your whole family there or want to have your whole family there, you can still get that like cool, you know, vibe by doing it.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah. Cause I think people take a lot more, they value the couples portraits so much more. I mean, at least I would say 90% of couples do anyways. And I think it's one of those things that had it been offered to me, I probably would have done it, but it wasn't, you know.
We just shot a wedding that did this actually. Nikakara, an Indian wedding. There is so much going on during the day. They didn't want to take time to disappear. Yeah. Like their family traveled around the world, from India, from Ireland, from New York, from Mexico. Like people from around the globe came together and they're like, there's no way we're leaving the party. Like we only have X amount of hours today. We're going to party till 2 a.m., but I want to be with these people all day, all night. So they waited till the next morning, threw their wedding clothes back on. They had 2 outfits that they, you know, went down to the beach. We were in Half Moon Bay. They just went down to the beach from the hotel and they shot their portraits down there. So I think that's a great way to just get it all. You know, you get those very special portraits without having to leave your party.
Well, and you don't feel rushed. Exactly. I mean, that's a whole other thing, which we'll talk about in episode 4, is like padding your timeline and how that can affect your time that you have together with your photographer. I don't know. I feel like you guys are the most, like you and your fiance are the most important people of this day. And sometimes people are like, oh, I only have 5 minutes for couples portraits. It's like, but this is once in your life. Like we should document this, just the two of you guys. It's not just about your wedding. It's also about you and who you are right now and capturing that. So
totally.
I love that. I'm a big fan.
Yep. Cool. Same.
Anyways, that is a wrap on episode 3. And we'll be back next time with episode 4. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Peace.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 3. I am Melissa.
I'm Kristen.
And if you have any thoughts on our episode with trends, themes, and styles that we talked about, what are your thoughts, opinions?
Let us know.
Let us know. We want to hear from you.
Do you like the geodes? Do you hate the geodes?
Leave your comment down below.
Subscribe.
Subscribe.
All the above.
We're really fun. Bye.
Bye.